morning. Good morning, Ramen. How you doing? I'm back. uh, Tuesday and Wednesdays were fun, but hey, what can I say? Real life interrupts, and when real life decides it's going to step in, you've got no choice but to obey. And that's what happened to me. Real life interrupted. So, but I'm back. Everything's okay. No life threatening issues at this time now. So, anyway, that is what it is. What has been, and life is good all the way around. Got a loving wife, loving grandson and granddaughter and my granddaughter's birthday was yesterday, so, or my daughter-in-law's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, young lady. Then, of course, my two wonderful grandsons. And the youngest one, man, is he growing up fast. You can definitely tell he doesn't take after his father's side of the family, though. He definitely takes after his mother's side in both looks and attitude, I do believe. He is, but I don't know, man. The stubbornness he's got has got to come from both sides. I mean, there's no way that's just one side of the family. He didn't inherit that. That poor kid, he got his stubbornness from both sides of the family, and they the both mothers' curses happened came alive in this young man. I gotta tell you, man. Oh, for a 1 year old, almost two. Well, no, he's almost two now. He is about the most willful child and strong. But anywho, I hope you all have enjoyed your week this week. It's it's been interesting to say the least. So let's start off with Joe Biden's doctor. All right. He got called up before the House Government Affairs and Oversight Committee yesterday because they wanted to question him about his his knowledge of Joe's mental capacity because and there's going to be it's questioned as to whether or not he was duty bound to inform people as to Joe's mental condition. That is a serious question. All right. And we'll anyway, let's I'm going to be using the GOP's uh, X account for the video because it's the best video that I've been able to find that doesn't have a bunch of commercials in it. Because the YouTube one's got commercials oh my God, about every 3 minutes, which is absolutely ridiculous to have that many commercials, but it does. So, Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, U.S. House of Representatives, July 9th, 2025. Dr. Kevin O'Connor.
We'll go on the record. Good morning, everyone. This is a deposition of Dr. Kevin O'Connor conducted by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform under the authority granted to it pursuant to House Rule 10 and the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Accordingly, House Rule 10 grants the committee broad jurisdiction for the committee to conduct investigations of any matter at any time. On May 22nd, 2025, Chairman Comer requested a voluntary interview of Dr. O'Connor as part of the committee's investigation into President Biden's alleged mental and physical decline, the Biden White House's efforts to hide that from the American people, and any unauthorized executive actions. The committee is considering legislative solutions to address these issues, including changes to the 25th Amendment to the Constitution. I will enter this initial request by Chairman Comer as Exhibit 1.
All right, I'm going to pause it here for just a second. Okay, because let's take a look at the 25th Amendment. All right, and I'm pulling up the wiki on it because that's the easiest way to get it. Okay. Section 1, in case removal of the president from office or of his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's straightforward. When there is a vacancy in the office of vice president, the president shall nominate a president who shall take office upon confirmation by majority of both houses of Congress. And that is how we got oh, Lord have mercy. Why is it Gerald Ford. And that is how we got Gerald Ford as vice president, who then became president on Nixon's resignation. Gerald Ford being the first president to have never been voted on by the populace. The Spiro Agnew resigned for under corruption. Then Nixon nominated Ford. Ford was voted on, became vice president, and shortly thereafter, Nixon resigned and Gerald Ford became president. Declaration, Section 3. Whenever the president transmits to the president pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, and until he transmits them to them, a written declaration to the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the vice president as acting president. This usually happens when the president's going in for surgery. All right. And he's going to be under anesthesia and he'll be unable to do anything. Now, this is the part that has got people wondering. Whenever the vice president and the majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or other such bodies of Congress made by law provide, transmit to the president pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president. Thereafter, when the president transmits to the president pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers and duties of his office unless the president and the majority of either principal officers of the executive department, that's the cabinet, or other such body as Congress may by law provide, transmit within 4 days to the President pro tem and the Speaker of the House of Representatives the written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Thereupon, Congress shall decide the issue, assembling within 48 hours for that purpose, if not in session. If the Congress, within 21 days after the receipt of the latter written declaration, or if the Congress is not in session within 21 days after the Congress is required to assemble, determines by 2/3 vote of both houses that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall continue to discharge the same as acting president. Otherwise, the president shall resume the powers and duties of his office. And that is the question being brought up here. If the doctor were to bring up to is the doctor required to bring up to the cabinet and the Congress, both the House and Senate, the questionable mental facilities of the sitting president? Is he required to do so? If he knows or suspects that the president is unable to perform as a president because he's just mentally not there, is he required to inform people? Is that part of his duties as the president's private doctor or personal doctor? Because that would, in a sense, violate doctor-patient confidentiality and HIPAA laws. However, should there be an exclusion to that confidentiality and the HIPAA laws when it comes to this president of the United States, the president and the vice president of the United States? And being this would be the president's personal doctor, they would have a relationship. So if the personal doctor is now taking this to the House, the Senate, and the cabinet, that'd be a pretty cotton picking good indication that there is a serious issue. But it also falls back. Is the doctor required to do so, and under what circumstances? What would be or are the legal limitations, the legal requirements that would require the doctor to do so? So let's get back over to the hearing here.
On June 4th, counsel for Dr. O'Connor responded to the Oversight Committee. In the letter to the committee, counsel stated Dr. O'Connor could not appear for the requested interview. I will enter this as Exhibit 2. On June 5th, Chairman Comer issued a subpoena for Dr. O'Connor to appear for this deposition. In that cover letter, the committee addressed various claims of privilege raised by Dr. O'Connor's counsel. The committee notified Dr. O'Connor that none of the legal arguments raised by Dr. O'Connor's counsel were tenable. I will enter both the subpoena and the accompanying cover letter to Dr. O'Connor as Exhibit 3. Thank you. The committee noticed today's deposition on July 3rd, 2025. I will enter the notice for this deposition as Exhibit 4. I will also introduce as Exhibit 4 the notice of a change of room to where we are sitting right now.
I'm going to speed this up.
Can the witness please state his name and spell his last name for the record?
Dr. Kevin O'Connor, O''Connor.
Thank you. My name is Jake Greenberg, and I'm the Chief Counsel for Investigations for Chairman James Comer. Under the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform's rules, you are allowed to have an attorney present to advise you during this deposition. You have attorneys present today representing you in a personal capacity.
He does.
Will counsel please identify themselves for the record?
David Schurler, Mark McDougall.
For the record, starting with majority staff, can the additional staff members please introduce themselves with their names, titles, and affiliations?
Mitch Benzine, General Counsel for the majority.
Margaret Parker, Senior Advisor for the majority.
Mark Marin, Staff Director for the majority.
Catherine Van Taker, Law for the majority. Sharon, Senior Professional Staff from the majority. Alison Dolan, Counsel for the majority.
Billy Grant, Counsel for the majority. Peter Spector, Professional Staff Member for the majority.
Minority. I'm sorry.
Melvin Soto, Legal Director for the majority.
And minority. And
I find it interesting that the minority staff members and such for this wanted their names redacted from the hearing. That's a little concerning. Not huge concerning, but a little concerning that they don't want to release to the public who the minority advisors were.
Mr. Comer.
James Comer, Kentucky 1.
And can the associate?
Yes.
Zoe Osborne, paralegal. Caitlin Bozard, Summer Associate.
Thank you both.
Thank you for accommodating us.
Of course. Dr. O'Connor, before we begin, I would like to go over the ground rules for this deposition. The committee will conduct today's deposition in accordance with the House of Representatives regulations for the use of deposition authority, which were furnished to your counsel. This regulation is incorporated into the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform at Rule 15, which was also furnished to your counsel. The questioning will proceed in rounds. The majority will ask questions for an hour, and then an hour if they choose. There will be one staff counsel per side asking questions during each round. To the extent members.
Hey, Digi, good. I'm just now seeing your note there. My apologies if you made that earlier. That's why I'm wondering, if there is an exception for the president and vice president for the to release the doctor from the limitations, the requirements of HIPAA and patient confidentiality. When it comes to something as serious as their mental and physical capabilities to perform their duties as president and vice president. It's not like they're just figureheads, which they, for the most part, should be. It's not as if they're, just there to be looked at on occasion. Remember, the president can send people into war, into battle at any time that they do so want, against anyone they want. And no one, including Congress, can stop them from sending men into battle. The only requirement being he has to notify the leaders of Congress within 24 hours. But that doesn't stop him from sending men and women into battle against, any other country that he so desires for whatever reason he wanted. And do we really want a president that is mentally incompetent, that may be confusing modern issues with issues in the past, and send our troops into battle against somebody? I realize that's the worst case scenario, but that is the scenario that could happen by a president of the United States. And somebody who's mentally incompetent, or worse, somebody that does attack us, and we've got a president who's unable to understand what's going on. So that that's why I fall down more along the side of the president's personal doctor should be required by law and be exempt under HIPAA and patient confidentiality laws for reporting such things to the cabinet and members of Congress, both majority and minority leaders. But that's my personal opinion. I'm willing to have that like anything else. I'm willing to have that discussion.
Members have questions for the witness, they will be propounded during their side's respective rounds. Do you understand?
The advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer.
All right, I'm going to slow this down here. Move this back down to.
During each round, to the extent members have questions for the witness, they will be propounded during their side's respective rounds. Do you understand?
The advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
So, gentlemen, we intend to assert both privileges with regard to any questions that would be asked at this deposition. And Dr. O'Connor will not answer any questions.
Can we go off the record for 1 second?
Obviously, that was one of his lawyers responding for him. Oh yeah, Digi, you're right. I mean, corruption is corruption there. I mean, how do they do it in Star Trek? What's her name? Not Beverly Crusher, but the other one, the doctor everybody despised. I can't remember her name. I know she held Picard down in one particular episode, proclaiming him mentally unfit, if I remember correctly. No, not Troy. What the Next Generation doctors? Star Trek Next. All right, Next Generation cast. Gates McFadden played Crusher. Dr. Pulaski. That's who I'm thinking of. All right, I'm back. But yeah, Dr. Pulaski, played by Dana Muldair. She, boy, Denise Crosby has aged horribly. Wow. That's sad to see. That really is sad to see. Oh well, anyway. So back to this guy here. You know, he is now announced he is going to declare Fifth Amendment and Dr. Privilege. And Dr. Patient Privilege.
Go back on the record. The clock will stop if the witness needs to confer with counsel, when your counsel is speaking, and when members or staff are speaking during the opposing side's rounds of questions. We will alternate back and forth until there are no more questions. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
The reason why he refused to answer that question is a long time ago. Somebody, after they declared their fifth, they asked them a asinine question, something simple like this: do you understand this, or something like that. They answered it, and they used that as your own Fifth Amendment protections. You have to answer the rest of our questions. So anytime he is addressed, he is going to read off that same phrase.
There's a court reporter taking down everything I say and everything you say to make a written record of the deposition. For the record to be clear, please wait until the staffer questioning you finishes each question before you begin your answer, and the staffer will wait until you finish your response before proceeding to the next question. Further, to ensure the court reporter can properly record this deposition, please speak clearly, concisely, and slowly. Also, the court reporter cannot record nonverbal answers, such as nodding or shaking your head. So it is important that you answer each question with an audible verbal answer. You understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Exhibits may be entered into the record. Majority exhibits will be identified numerically. Minority exhibits will be identified alphabetically. We want you to answer our questions in the most complete and truthful manner possible, so we will take our time. If you have any questions or do not fully understand the question, please let us know, and we will attempt to clarify, add context to, or rephrase our questions. If we ask about specific conversations or events in the past and you are unable to recall the exact words or details, you should testify to the substance of those conversations or events to the best of your recollection. If you recall only a part of a conversation or event, you should give us your best recollection of those events or parts of conversations that you do recall. You are required by law to answer questions from Congress truthfully. This also applies to questions posed by congressional staff in this deposition. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
If at any time you knowingly make false statements, you could be subject to criminal prosecution, including but not limited to perjury. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Sorry. Ma'am, will you identify yourself for the record?
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Texas 30.
Thank you, ma'am.
I don't understand. Maybe Crockett just showed up there late or something, but why they had her introduce herself? No, they didn't have a camera on the staff or on the House members, and I couldn't find, or at least I couldn't find a video of them. The only real videos I could find were like this, strictly on him. Raman, this is why I got it sped up here.
You cannot tell half-truths or exclude information necessary to make statements accurate. You are required to provide all information that would make your response truthful. A deliberate failure to disclose information can constitute a false statement or perjury. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Is there any reason you're unable to provide truthful testimony in today's deposition?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
The federal rules of evidence in criminal and civil procedure are not applicable for today's deposition. Under the House deposition regulations, a witness's attorney may not instruct a witness to refuse to answer a question except to preserve a privilege. Please note that if you wish to assert a privilege over any statement today, that assertion must comply with the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Pursuant to that, Committee Rule 16C1 states, for the chair to consider assertions of privilege over testimony or statements, witnesses or entities must clearly state the specific privilege being asserted and the reason for the assertion on or before the scheduled date of testimony or appearance. I will enter as Exhibit 5 a letter dated July 8th, 2025 to your counsel from Gary Lakowski, Deputy Counsel to the President, informing you that President Trump has determined not to assert executive privilege over issues regarding your assessment of President Biden's fitness for office and your financial relationship with the Biden family.
Hey, good morning, gamer. How you doing today? Good seeing you showing up this morning. Now, you would think that, and this is something what Trump did. Biden did that first, releasing people under Trump's first administration from their executive, the idea that these guys can talk back and forth to the president and it's kept in secret. It's between them. And Biden refused that authority against several Trump people, and a couple of them ended up in jail. So now Trump is just returning the favor here. Hey, Doc, you got to answer these questions. You got to go over there and answer those questions. I'm not going to hold you to any executive confidences here. Once again, what a Democrat does comes back to bite them in the ass because they did it to Republicans. It's stupid gamesmanship, but it's there. Yeah, Doc. Yeah, old guy, you're right. It absolutely does. When you start pleading the fifth, people start wondering why you're pleading fifth and not answering questions. I mean, even though you've always got the right not to answer questions, and I always highly recommend when the police start questioning you to as much as possible refuse to answer any questions, except where you're absolutely 100% legally required to, such as handing over your driver's license if you get pulled over. But other than that, they start asking, again, this is personal opinion. I'm required to show them my driver's license, proof of insurance, and vehicle registration. Anything beyond that is none of your business. None of your business where I'm going, none of your business where I'm coming from, none of your business what I think I was doing, none of your business what I got in my vehicle. But that's just me personally. But when you're in the court of law and you start declaring the fifth, then people are going to wonder why. Or when you're in a hearing like this, why you're refusing to answer the question. I don't understand why my internet's doing circles. But it's doing it. I don't understand why. I hope, what I'm saying is coming through. Do I got to refresh this? Okay, it was it.
Execution, including but not limited to perjury. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my.
Is there any reason you are unable to provide truthful testimony in today's deposition?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth
Yes,
Amendment of the Constitution.
Xfinity.
I'm not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
The federal rules of evidence in criminal and civil procedure are not applicable for today's deposition. Under the House deposition regulations, a witness's attorney may not instruct a witness to refuse to answer a question except to preserve a privilege. Please note that if you wish to assert a privilege over any statement today, that assertion must comply with the rules. For the purposes of the deposition, objections must be stated concisely.
I'm not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
If the witness continues to refuse to answer a question despite being ordered to do so, the witness may be subject to sanction. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Finally, I will note for everyone here today that the contents of what we discuss in the deposition are confidential under the House deposition regulations. Under the rules, the chairman and ranking board members shall consult before any release of testimony or transcripts, including portions thereof. This means it is a violation of House and committee rules to disclose contents of this deposition prior to its official release. Can the reporter please swear in the witness?
Will you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly declare and affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll go off the record.
I say at that point, I'm surprised that,
Dr. O'Connor,
that he actually said
Were you
that.
ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon physician.
Truth and nothing but the truth.
All right.
Thank you. We'll go off the record.
All right.
Dr. O'Connor, were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
First question right out of the bat. Were you told to lie? And of course, he's pleading the fifth. Gotta give them points. Gotta give the House Republicans points here, man. We're going straight to the crux of the matter. Well, old guy, hopefully you'll go 72 hours now.
Let the record reflect that Dr. O'Connor has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Dr. O'Connor, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must rely on my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Dr. O'Connor, did you ever believe the president was unfit to execute his duties as president?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Let the record reflect that Dr. O'Connor has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Dr. O'Connor, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Dr. O'Connor, is it your intention to decline to answer all questions put to you today by the committee on the basis of the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
And we can tell you that he will have the same answer with respect to any questions that are asked.
Thank you, sir. Does the minority wish to ask any questions?
And his lawyer pops up and says, guys, just forget it. We ain't answering no questions whatsoever today. Everything is going to be the exact same thing.
We wish to give Mr. Sherwood an opportunity to make a statement, and we wish to enter a few sentences to the record.
Go off the record.
once again, I don't, the minority, they redact their questions. They redact anything that they have to say here. I'm confused. It makes me really wonder why. What, first they won't tell us who was there representing the Democratic Party. And now they won't let anybody know what questions they asked, what they said. Something is definitely crazy there. Something's not right.
Dr. O'Connor, good morning. I just wanted to note for the record that prior to your appearance for today's deposition, your attorney raised with the majority your position that the questions posed to you today by my majority colleagues may require you to infringe on doctor-patient confidentiality.
Well, it did under the Biden administration, so I don't know what it's going to do here. It did when the Democrats ran the Congress.
A fundamental principle of medicine, which, as your attorneys have explained, is both long held and widely recognized. Your attorneys further explained to the majority that should you provide any answers to the majority's questions today that violate doctor-patient confidentiality, you may be in breach of your legal and ethical obligations to your patient and suffer grave professional and personal consequences from any such breach. Mr. Schertler, I understand that you had a statement you wish to make for the record, and I'd like to give you that opportunity now.
Thank you very much. Chairman Comer, Representative Crockett, and members of both the majority.
Now,
and
once
staff.
again, this is his lawyer.
Good morning. My name is David Schertler, and along with my partner, Mark McDougall, we represent Dr. Kevin O'Connor. As you all know, Dr. O'Connor served as the physician to President Biden during President Biden's term of office from January 2021 until January 2025. Dr. O'Connor had also been President Biden's primary care physician for 12 years before President Biden took office in January of 2021. It was Dr. O'Connor's privilege and honor to serve as President Biden's physician and as head of the White House Medical Unit. Dr. O'Connor has also served in the United States Army for over 20 years and did active tours of duty in Afghanistan and Iraq. This committee has indicated to Dr. O'Connor and to us, his attorneys, that it does not intend to honor one of the most well-known privileges in our law, the physician-patient privilege. Instead, the committee has indicated to us that it will demand that Dr. O'Connor reveal, without any limitations, confidential information regarding medical examinations, treatment, and care of President Biden. Revealing confidential patient information would violate the most fundamental ethical duty.
And see, this is what bothers me. Should the president and vice president have the same level of doctor-patient confidentiality and protection under HIPAA laws as the average person? I don't think so. Should they have some? I mean, the president picks up a case of, he goes out and he's overseas and the meeting foreign leaders and they send a young lady to his room for the evening and he picks up an STD. Now, should the American population know that he picked up an STD while he was overseas, or he's being treated for genital warts or anything like that? No. Should we be notified if the president of the United States is going in and have a pacemaker installed? Yes. Should we be notified that the president is seeing invisible bunny rabbits and holding conversations with them? Yes. Should we be notified if the president of the United States is sitting there catatonic? Yes. I don't care, I don't care if if he's sitting there and he's, he cut his finger and he got to get a couple of stitches. Oh, boo! I don't care about that. I don't care, that he's got a slight head cold and he's taking uh, Coldies and NyQuil. I don't care about that. But I do care whether or not he thinks he's Napoleon Bonaparte. I do care whether or not he's talking to an invisible rabbit, or he thinks he's talking to Nixon, or he thinks he's talking to Jefferson. I am concerned about that. I am concerned whether if he can't carry on a 5-minute conversation, that should be brought to the notice of the American people. That should be brought to the notice of the cabinet and of the members of the House and the members of the Senate. And partisanship should go out the window at that time. Notice I said should. I didn't say would. I said should. Because I don't care who the president is, which party the president is, if he is not mentally capable of leading the country, I want him out of office. And I would even put up with Kamala as president for a few months versus having a drooler there, somebody that's incapable of coherent thought. The president and vice president have a lot of exceptions to the laws, as we know. They have a lot of immunities. There's a lot of things they can do that you and I can't do. But under that same thing, there's certain protections that they lose. Because they are, they are one man deep. There's only one president. There's only one vice president. We don't have a co-president. We don't have a co-vice president. Now should these, should what the doctor telling the cabinet and the leadership in the House and Senate be immediately released to the American populace? Once again, depending on what it is and how serious it is. And for the most part, I would say yes. If there is a question about the president's mental capability to be president of the United States and to lead the country, the American people should know about it. We shouldn't be sitting there watching television and seeing the man going off 10 words into a sentence and start mumbling because he doesn't know what he wants to say next. Or there's people guiding him every place he's got to go by the elbow so to make certain that he gets there. Or they've got red tape on the ground telling him to follow the red line on the ground. Red line on the floor as to where he needs to walk to.
Of any physician. It could also result in the revocation of Dr. O'Connor's medical license and could subject him to civil liability.
Now, this is where I say the doctor should be protected. that doctor should be protected from any civil or criminal liabilities when he is making this report to the House, Senate, and Cabinet. This is where he has qualified immunity. He can't be sued. Now, granted, you're going to have some medical facilities that will refuse to allow him come work for them because, they're so damn partisan about it. But there'll be other medical facilities that'll be more than glad to have him come work for them because either he was, he was, doing the right thing by the nation. So once again, I, as he's his license should be protected, and he should be protected from any civil or criminal charges.
Dr. O'Connor will not violate the oath of confidentiality to any of his patients, including President Biden. Furthermore, through the issuance of a presidential memorandum that was dated June 4th of 2025, President Trump directed the Department of Justice and the White House counsel to conduct a parallel criminal investigation into the same topics that are being investigated by this committee. In fact, just this past Sunday, Chairman Comer, I believe you confirmed on Fox News that Pam Bondi has announced an investigation of the Department of Justice into the illegal use of the AutoPen. We believe that the committee should hold its investigation in abeyance until any criminal investigation has been conducted and completed.
Is the doctor here? I mean, now I got questions. Is the doctor under investigation for criminal activities? Is he under investigation for the AutoPen? Or at this point, you're right there, old guy. What I'm saying is that if he had come to the House and the Senate and the Cabinet and expressed his medical opinion that Biden was no longer mentally fit to be president of the United States, he at that point should be protected from criminal or civil lawsuits. But this point, if there are statements out there where he said that Biden was mentally fit and yada yada yada, then you're right. He should be held. He did lie to the American people. But I don't know if there's such statements out there. Okay, old guy, I think you're misunderstanding me here. I'm saying he's protected from all lawsuits if he had gone or when they go to the cabinet and to the House and Senate and inform everybody that the president is mentally unfit. At that point, he is protected. When he declares the president mentally unfit, it's when he lies is when I agree. Okay. Now, if he lies, then that's a different story.
Nonetheless, the totality of the circumstances surrounding this committee's investigation leave Dr. O'Connor no choice but to decline to answer questions on two overlapping grounds. First, the physician-patient privilege and the physician's ethical duty of confidentiality required that Dr. O'Connor refuse to testify about any aspect of his care and treatment of President Biden. Second.
Okay, you're right, old guy. As far as we know, he did not. As far as we know, he did not. And we can pretty well assume that he did not go to any Republicans. He did not go to any, to any Republicans and say this. We don't know if he went to the cabinet. We don't know if he went to the vice president. We don't know if he went to any other presidential advisors and said anything. That we don't know. I agree 100%. If we can find where he stated somewhere on the record over the past 2 years that Biden was mentally fit to hold office, then he should be held liable for lying. We don't know, old guy. I honestly don't know if somebody saw the reports or not. Again, I mean, he may have shielded everything under patient confidentiality and not gone to anybody. I haven't seen any reports saying that he did do that he did go out and report it to anyone.
A pending Department of Justice criminal investigation leaves Dr. O'Connor no choice but to invoke his constitutional right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to any questions that might be posed by the committee in this deposition. And we want to emphasize that in asserting a Fifth Amendment privilege does not imply that Dr. O'Connor has committed any crime. In fact, to the contrary, our Supreme Court has emphasized, and I quote, "One of the Fifth Amendment's basic functions is to protect innocent men who otherwise might be ensnared by ambiguous circumstances," end of quote. For these reasons, Dr. O'Connor will respectfully decline to answer any questions that might be posed to him by the committee today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm also going to ask the court reporter to mark as Exhibit 6 a presidential memorandum from the White House dated June 4th, 2025, which, among other things, directs the counsel to the president in consultation with the Attorney General, along with the head of any other relevant executive department or agency, to investigate, to the extent permitted by law, the allegations that the majority has leveled in this matter. I'm also going to ask that the court reporters mark as Exhibit 7 a letter dated July 5th, 2025 from Dr. O'Connor's counsel to Chairman Comer as well as the ranking member, setting forth their position as to the relevance and applicability of the doctor-patient privilege to the proceedings today. We can go off the record.
On the record. Thank you, Dr. O'Connor. Considering your invocation of the Fifth Amendment pursuant to the terms of the subpoena, you are excused.
And that is the end of it. And that 20 minutes and 39 seconds, Dr. O'Connor declared his Fifth Amendment privilege and doctor-patient privilege 14 times. Yes, we were told that, old guy. We had that said, but it was, again, to my knowledge, it was by his paid professional liar, KGP, at press conferences. I do not at this time recall at any time Dr. O'Connor standing up and answering the question, what kind of physical health is President Biden in? Every time that I saw that his health was questioned, okay, it was either Democrats, KGP, people like what's Morning Joe. These people who are not held to any kind of a standard when it comes to lying. But again, and I'm just going off my own personal memory here. If somebody, and I'll look, but I don't think we're going to find anything out there where O'Connor himself was ever answered that question. So, once again, what I still say that he should have that one, the president, vice president should not be given the same, their mental and physical health should not be given the same protections from dissemination as the average American. And the doctor should have protections against the doctor should have protections against any kind of liability for disseminating serious medical conditions, especially mental conditions, by the president or vice president. And that he should be required by law to report to the cabinet and both the House and Senate, the leadership of both parties, any medical opinions that he's got on the mental or physical health of the president or vice president. And if he knowingly lies to the above named people, members of the cabinet, members of the House and Senate, either party, he tells the Democrats one thing and the Republicans another, then he should be held with criminal liabilities. So, yeah, I know that goes against the grain of what we've all said, but the president and the vice president, they're, like I said, they're one deep, and they've got authorities. The president's got authorities that nobody else in this country has. And if he's mentally incompetent, then they should be removed from office. And I'm using he in the generic term here because I know one day we will have a female vice president, and I don't want anybody to say, well, you said he, so that exempts her from what you're saying. No, I'm using he in the very generic term like we use mankind, encompassing both males and females. Anybody which holds those offices. Please. I mean, like I don't want to know, wouldn't be surprised, but I don't want to know whether or not Kamala's got the clap. Or, she's got permanent herpes from spreading it around when she first to everybody that, when she first started her political career with old Joe Brown. And she's got herpes for life. The gift that keeps on giving. But there's that. And speaking of the gift that keeps on giving, old Jasmine Crockett. She's opening her mouth again. And once again, the only place I had to go to Facebook to find a decent copy of this video. Unfreaking believable. I had to go to Facebook to find this video here. And I haven't spent much time on Jasmine because she is such a joke, and she is told so many distortions and lies. Uh, but this is unbelievable, and this is something. Okay, what happened to my audio? Why is my audio disappearing?
I mean, obviously anyone can be a criminal, but it is violence doesn't come from Democrats, just to be clear. I mean,
Violence doesn't come from Democrats. There's lie one. We've got all of 2020. Yeah, she's less intelligent than I am there, old guy. And that's really speaking. But lie one, Democrats aren't violent. Even if she would have said Democrats are less violent than Republicans, that'd still be a lie. We've got all 2020, and the only violence that they can point to Republicans and conservatives in general is January 6th, one day. One day 4 years ago. Meanwhile, we've got the BLM riots. We've got we've got multiple takeovers of the House and Senate. We've got car bombings. We've got shootings. We've got the ICE, the stuff going on in ICE now, out in California and across the country. We've got the day that Trump was sworn in, the first time, to show that Democrats are violent. We've got the Antifa riots at Berkeley when they went after Milo. So, don't for her to say Democrats aren't violent, that's an absolute joke. All right. It seems like every time I pause this and restart it, the audio automatically shuts off.
I mean, obviously anyone can be a criminal, but it is MAGA. It's specifically MAGA faction. Like, I don't think traditional Republicans are getting engaged in all of this, but like, even when we look at, and they don't talk about the assassination attempts anymore that took place with Donald Trump, but these were Trump supporters, right?
These were Trump supporters that tried to kill him. Yep. But this was the one. She is saying that the two people that tried to kill Trump were Trump supporters.
Took place with Donald Trump, but these talk about the assassination attempts anymore that took place with Donald Trump, but these were Trump supporters, right? As well as this most recent situation, they tried to flip it and say, oh, the leftists are, I'm like, this doesn't even make sense, right? But it's only like MAGA that does this.
It's only MAGA and Trump supporters that are violent. And both Ralph and I'm hoping and Crooks, that they were both Trump supporters. Well, Jasmine. There, I want to tell you something here. The internet. The internet's a wonderful thing. It really and truly is. All right. So this here's a USA Today article. Let's see. This article, when was this article from? August 29th, 2024. It's almost a year old. Robert Wells, executive assistant director of the FBI's National Security Branch, said on a call that the FBI has not identified a motive, but has also not uncovered any co-conspirators or associates of crooks. This is the guy, okay, who had advanced knowledge of the attack. And I want to be clear, we have not seen any indication to suggest Crooks was directed by a foreign entity to conduct the attack, Wells added. Rojak said investigators aren't even clear whether Crooks had a partisan political views. We've seen no definitive ideology associated with our subject, either left-leaning or right. It's really been a mixture, something we're attempting to analyze and draw conclusions on. Rojak also addressed the testimony of FBI Director Paul Abbott when he said investigators found the first real indication of extremist views and politically violent communications through social media contact they're working on to verify belong to Crooks. Abbott mentioned more than 700 comments between 2019 and 2020, including anti-Semitic and anti-immigration messages in particular. The FBI's assessment is these statements were associated with accounts associated with the subject, and we continue to work to determine if they were in fact attributed to the subject himself. Now, Crooks is the one that was there in Butler, Pennsylvania. So, there is no proof that they have no proof that Crooks was assigned either Republican or Democrat. He was a nut job. Now, Ralph, he was the guy that was laying in the bushes. Lord Spanky, are you okay? He's doing that backward sneezing. Yeah, exactly, old guy. You're exactly right. Now, prosecutors said Ralph had handwritten note about his plans to kill Trump several months before his arrest. The note referred to his actions as a failed assassination attempt on Donald Trump and offered $150,000 to anyone who could finish the job. The note was in a box Ralph had dropped off at the residence of an unidentified person months before his arrest. So again, there's nothing here showing that Ralph was a Republican. Now, one of these two, one of the two, maybe it was Crooks. Is this the article? Okay, here's the Newsweek article on these two guys. And I'm just trying to I'm trying to play honest engine here. Okay. The two men, this is a Newsweek article. Two men allegedly tried to kill Trump this summer. Here's what to know about them. The two men who law enforcement say attempted to assassinate former politicians with unclear motives and apparently differing political allegiances. The one thing they had in common, aside from apparent desire to kill Trump, both gave similar small dollar donations to Democrats through Act Blue, the Democrat aligned fundraiser. That is, fundraiser that has raised more than 150 or raised more than 15 billion for progressive causes and politicians since 2004. So there's Ralph waving his Ukrainian flag. Online, he portrayed himself as someone who built houses for the homeless in Hawaii, tried to recruit fighters to help Ukraine. He also expressed both support for and then growing disdain toward Trump, at one point even urging Iran to kill him. Okay. I'm not worried about his misdemeanors, his previous arrest record. All right, authorities are still investigating his motives, but Ralph's online presence shows shifting political views and frustrations. In a rambling, self-published 2023 book, Ukraine's Unwinnable War, he voiced strong support for Ukraine against Russia, urging Iran to assassinate Trump, calling the former president a fool and buffoon, and criticizing his role in the January 6th Capitol riot and the Iran nuclear deal withdrawal. Yeah, he's really MAGA here, isn't he? He is really MAGA. In the same book, Ralph described himself as politically unaffiliated. As of 2012, Ralph was registered as unaffiliated in North Carolina and voted in the state Democratic primary earlier this year, voter registration records show. He appears to have developed intense regret over his 2016 vote for Trump, whom he later referred to as a brainless child. Since changing his beliefs on the former president, Ralph has donated exclusively to Democratic causes, making 19 donations through Act Blue over the past 5 years, totaling $140. His contributions range from $1 to $25. He donated to Kasich in 2015, McCain in 2007, Gary Bauer and Kasich even earlier. So, Roth was a real MAGA type guy, right there, Jasmine. He's really MAGA. Okay, let's see here. Crooks left little apparent social media activity. The right-wing social platform Gab said the Crooks may have had an account in that he used to pose in support of President Biden. FBI said discovered another media account where the Crooks shared anti-Semitic topics and described his limited online footprint as a mixture of ideologies. Complicating the search for a motive, Crooks was a registered Republican who donated to Act Blue on the day of President Biden's inauguration and $15. The donation was earmarked for the Progressive Turnout Project, a Get Out the Vote operation based in Chicago. So even though he's a quote-unquote registered Republican, he donated to Act Blue to get out the vote for Democrats. Jasmine, Tell me, do MAGA people donate to Act Blue on turn out the vote for Democrats? That doesn't make good sense to me there, Jasmine. It really and truly doesn't. But since we're talking about these guys who attempted to assassinate Trump, this happened yesterday. 6 Secret Service agents suspended over conduct during attempted Trump assassination. So they are actually holding some of these agents responsible for their actions and lack of actions over there in Butler. Six agents were suspended by the U.S. Secret Service for failures connected to last year's attempted assassination of then president candidate Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. The personnel moves were confirmed 4 days shy of the anniversary of the July 13th, 2024 shooting incident that left Trump's ear bloodied. Corey Carpenter, a firefighter attending Trump's campaign rally that day, died in the attack. Counter snipers in Trump's Secret Service who were on site killed the shooter, identified by the FBI's 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks. In the aftermath of the shooting, an independent review by the Department of Homeland Security showed a series of law enforcement breakdowns that had created an environment that left Trump vulnerable to a would-be assassin. I played a lot of the hearings, and we discussed those hearings. And the former head of the Secret Service and the absolute crap job she did, the absolute crap job her assistant did, and the way he tried to cover her ass and his own ass. I said then, and I've sort of mollified my opinion. I'm still not 100% certain that Trump was not given the protections that he should have been given, that they did not take the steps that they should have taken, more out of political bias than anything else. I still think the political bias of the leaders within the Secret Service had a lot to do with their lack of planning, lack of protection, lack of everything that led up to that shooting, that left Trump vulnerable to that shooting. Especially, not putting sharpshooters on that roof, not having drone coverage, not having, better communications between the local officers and the Secret Service. And absolutely ignoring the reports by the people who were there and were pointing out this guy climbing up on the roof, and they did nothing about it. I still say the lack of I still have to believe that there's some political bias there. or if not political bias, then just outright disdain and hatred for Trump himself, that they're so lackadaisical about it. And it may be more of the Trump derangement syndrome that caused it. But anyway, the Secret Service does not perform at the elite levels needed to discharge its critical mission. The report found the Secret Service has become a bureaucratic, complacent, and static, even though risks of multiplying technology has evolved. Secret Service Director at the time, Kimberly Cheadle, the Hershey's security appointee, resigned 10 days after the shooting. The discipline against the 6 agents was issued in recent months, and the agents were given the right to appeal. The suspension ranged from 10 to 42 days, according to the official who was briefed on the agency's actions. The positions of those suspended from supervisory level to line agent level. A source familiar with the agency's decision told ABC's News. In the wake of both incidents, the then candidate was granted presidential level security as his campaign grappled with new security protocols and the planning of events. It took two assassination attempts before they decided that Trump actually needed better protection. Now, once again, I'm just absolutely baffled and confused that at what the Secret Service did and didn't do, what DHS did and didn't do during that whole time period. And the attitude of the Democrats during the hearings was absolutely despicable. The way they came to the defense of the Secret Service and tried to excuse them for their lack of coverage, for their lack of security there at Butler. I drew out the line showing what all was being covered and everything. And remember, it looked like a Pokemon, or not a Pokemon, a Pac-Man. Somehow that one particular building was outside, because there was no ring of security around Trump at that. There was that cutout where that one particular building was, just happened not to be within the ring. So once again, that just absolutely dazed and confused me that that happened and what they did and didn't do that day. So, but anyway, well, I got through this a little bit faster than I thought I would today. I'm trying to close up some tabs here so that I can see what's going on. Honestly, guys, that's all I've got for today. And I've got to go take another pill here real quick. So I'm just going to go ahead and call the stream here rather than doing what I usually do, which is to go look at X and see if there's anything there that I need to look at. So I want y'all to have a good day and enjoy yourselves. Thank you, old guy, for coming out. Ramen, thank you. Digi. And tomorrow's Friday Fun Day stream. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday stream. We'll have that. Hopefully today will be a nice quiet day. The wife requested that I bake some bread today and some pasta tomorrow because she wants to have a friend over for a spaghetti dinner. So this afternoon, after I get a little bit of rest here this morning, I'm going to break out the KitchenAid and make up some garlic bread. All right, old guy. I appreciate. I'll get you a invite for tomorrow's stream. I'll make sure I get out an invite. Okay, and maybe Ramen will have her stuff going. Yeah, Ramen, I'm glad to be home too. So, but anyway, everybody be good, behave. Most of all, be with the ones you love, and as always, love the ones that you're with. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, y'all.